Hello again, and welcome back, you ghouls and goblins. I hope you're having a magical day. It's Hello Good Game, forever and always, your host within these Magic the Gathering videos, discussing in this part of our four-part series our favorite and top 10 mythic cards from the Lost Caverns of Ixilan. Buckle up, get ready, and let's take a look at what I believe to be some of the most impactful cards. They're mythic, so there actually aren't that many to choose from. But what we see is either really good or really bad. Discussing first the really good, Cavern of Souls. A land that enters the battlefield allowing us to choose a creature type that can add mana of any color on that creature type, as well as having those spells be uncounterable, which is ridiculous. It can also just tap for a generic land or mana, which is great. This card is going to be everywhere. It's so good, and I feel bad for control players, really. It's a terrible time. The Ancient One for 2 mana is a legendary creature spirit god. That's an 8/8, which is crazy. It can pay for drawing a card, then discarding a card. When you discard a card this way, target player mills cards equal to its mana value. That's kind of crazy by its own. With Descend 8, so it can't attack or block unless there are 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, which is fine. At the end of the day, we get that if we're building around it, but we could also build around it other ways. You could fling this. This is a 2 mana 8/8 to fling. Yeah. An Ob Nixilis casualty. You've just made 2 Ob Nixilises. One of them now has 8 loyalty and can immediately use its ultimate, more like Alt Nixilis. And that's just without using the Descent, right? Just the 8/8 for 2 mana is ridiculous. You get the ability to mill to either turn itself on as an attacker or just take advantage of this mill ability on your opponent, which is great. Also, I find as, Jace exists and, just milling your opponent's fairly successful right now. So I like it if I'm being unclear in any way. Ojur Tak, Deepest Foundation. This is a little expensive, right? It's 6 mana, so you might want to be bringing it back or turbo ramping into it. 6/6 with Vigilance, which is not bad. And if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, create 3 times that amount of tokens instead. It's ridiculous. The ability is zonkers. When it dies, transform it and return it into the Temple of Civilization, tapping for a white. You can transform it if you attack with 3 or more creatures this turn at sorcery. So on your second main phase, sure. Because why wouldn't you? Because the front side is absolute gas. It's just so expensive, right? So, you're either having to turbo ramp, bring it back from the grave, or just play Commander. But, you just definitely run it, if you're building around tokens and because the ability is so strong. Bloodletter of Aots, 4 mana, triple black on this one. So, pretty stingy on that mana base. Maybe you could run it in a 2-color deck if you're really focused on that 1 color. It's a 2/4 with Flying Vampire Demon, and if an opponent would lose life during your turn, they're going to lose twice that much life instead. So, double strike becomes quad strike. Just food for thought. Very, very good if you're getting that damage in. Kind of crazy. It doesn't have haste, which is probably a very good thing. But I just think that the damage output that this provides is absolutely ridiculous. It's a non-legendary. You can copy it. You can play, another copy of it. Woof, right? That might be abusable. We'll see. Moving on, probably the best mythic. Of course, the order's kind of mixed up here, but this is my number 1. 5 mana, 6/5 trample, legendary creature god. When it deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards from the top of your library. You may put a creature and or a land card, both, thank you very much, from among them right into the battlefield, and the rest go in the bottom in a random order. Oh, right. I like it. When it dies, return and transform it into the Temple of Cultivation. Tap for Forest, pay 3, transform it if you control 10 or more permanents at sorcery. Not that bad. That is actually possible because lands are permanents, and then you can start playing more of them for free, and it just gets easier to do that. Oh my god. Quinteris Kond, 5 mana, 4 starting loyalty. Static ability, whenever you cast a spell from exile, it's going to deal 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. I like it. Just for the static ability in a Pinelar deck. Thank you. 1 mana, sorry, not 1 mana, +1 ability. Creating a 3/2 spirit token sucks. -3, discover 4. Now, sadly, I think you are forced to do this on ETB just to make sure that you get good value from your Planeswalker. And it does make the -6 less of a possibility. Far, far less of a possibility. Exile any number of cards from target graveyard. Add 1 red source of mana to your pool for each card exiled this way. And you may also play those cards this turn. That is kind of crazy, but I would be worried that you play this, it gets removed, and you didn't gain as much value as you would have liked to. And it is quite expensive. You know, this is 5 mana. So the expensive mana cost, I think, is mitigated through the really, really good -3 ability to discover 4. It's a 1 mana Planeswalker at that point if you can discover a 4 mana non-land. That's crazy. That's very, very good. So I don't mind it. You know, I think it's just going to be a little bit harder to play with. Saheeli, the Sun's Brilliance for 2. It's a 2/2 that you can pay to, tapping it. Create a token that's a copy of target creature or artifact that you control, except it's in the artifact in addition to its other types. It's going to gain haste, and you sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Just like Kiki Jiki, you're going to be using this ability at the end of the end step and then gaining extra value. It's a legendary, so you know you're not going to be copying copies of itself unless you make it a non-legendary. Looking at you, Reflections. But, you know, we'll see how it goes. Pretty cool card nonetheless. I like to see it. It's just fun. Ojir, Pak Pitik, Deepest Epoch, 4 mana, 4/3, legendary creature god with flying, and whenever you cast an instant spell from your hand, it gains rebound, casting it at the beginning of your next upkeep for free. Oh yeah, and then exiling it, which is kind of crazy. You don't have to pay for it either, you know, so this is very, very good. When it dies, return it transformed. It's going to be the Temple of Cyclical Time, tapping for 1 blue source, removing a time counter from it, and we can transform it for 3 when it has no time counters on it. I believe it will have 3 time counters on it as it transforms. Right, with 3 time counters. The doubling up of your instant speed spells is crazy. There's not a lot of super good instant speed spells right now, but, you know, they still exist, right? And I think that casting them again for free is ridiculous. That is so good. Chmail, the Inner Sun, 6 mana, legendary artifact. Spells you control can't be countered. Can still counter your opponent's spells, right? And of course, this can be countered, but once it's in play, then your other spells can't be. At the beginning of your end step, discover 5. That's ridiculous. You know, potentially getting this in play for 1. Yes, you do have to have that mana first, so it's not like it's in the battlefield on turn 1. But when you are casting it, you get that mail-in rebate. And that's how I like to think of Discover, except it's recursive. You're getting it each end step. Not bad, not bad. That can definitely pay off. Finally, the Bone Horde Dracosaur for 5. It's a 5/5 with flying and first strike, and at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. So that's just really, really good value, basically drawing 2 each turn, right? You know, if you exile the land this way, create a 3/1, and if you exile the non-land this way, create a treasure. So you're not only gaining card advantage, but you're also gaining field and mana advantage as well. Like that's kind of crazy. It is upkeep though, so you know this doesn't do anything as it enters, but if it sticks around, oh my gosh, that is kind of crazy, and I do not mind. It's both dragon and dinosaur too, which is like bonus points. Am I right? Anyways, those are my top 10 mythic cards for the Lost Caverns of Ixilan, coming to an arena client near you. I believe you can participate in early access events at your local game store already. And of course, I myself will have new content coming out daily, both free-to-play and competitive decks. Really looking forward to it. It looks very exciting. Thank you for watching. Have a magical day. Like, comment, subscribe, become a YouTube member, join that community Discord, and we'll see you soon in the next